do you take those emails seriously? Is it?
I'll look quickly at my phone because I have 7,728 emails.
There you go.
That I need to read.
Do you analyze these things before to sign a player?
To sign, to keep, to retain, all those decisions. Often ask the player, what do they see from themselves? What position would they play? What sort of style would they like to play?
80% of the goals that came in all divisions, maybe close to 80%, came from under 4 passes.
So welcome to our podcast again. We have today with us Michael Seabolt. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jose.
Coach.
Thank you, Rishi. Hopefully I didn't kill that.
No worries.
And thank you so much. I hope you enjoy here in Spain. I know you have more times here, no?
Yeah.
What do you think about the Spain? Do you like?
I love Spain. It's a great place to visit. It's so diverse in terms of culture and geography and climate and everything. So it's a really cool spot and just a fun people.
All times you come for recruiting?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. He's a coach for Missouri State University in US. A very popular, very famous university. And he's a coach, head coach there, no?
Yes.
Yeah. And now you are here for recruiting. Always you coming here for recruiting?
Yeah, I've not. I had the fortune of coming to Spain on vacation as of yet, so it's always been recruiting and work in that sense. But we love what we do and passionate about the job and about football. So it's a pretty good experience being here every time.
Oh, great. And how do you think? A quick question: how do you think about the Spanish player?
Well, I guess I wouldn't keep coming back if I didn't think Spanish were good. So we've got some good Spanish players on our team, and we've had good Spanish players in the past. And a couple of our guys are playing professionally now in the U.S. One, Jesus Barea, was drafted in MLS in the first round this year, and he's playing for Real Salt Lake, and he's made his debut for the first team and played a number of matches. And then Javier Martin Gil is playing for Spokane in USL, so he's doing great. So. Yeah, so we've been working in Spain for a number of years, and a couple of recent guys playing professionally, and I think we'll have more.
Wow,
nice. Obviously, there's a reason why you keep coming back to Spain, like you said.
Yeah.
We'll jump right into it. And something that's interesting for us in the academy is obviously we're here, but I'm originally from the U.S. Jose's from here. I've played in a lot of different countries. I've had teammates from all over the world. He's coached players from all over the world. So in the academy, we have a lot of players that come from all different countries, right? And we always try to talk within each other, like what's interesting about from this country they tend to be like this, from this country this. And are there any things that you've noticed of like specifically of a Spanish player, and then maybe we'll talk about other countries as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the cool thing in Spain is the access to men's football for young players, and I think that's something pretty special. And as we both know, in America that can be a challenge. It's getting better.
Yeah.
But certainly when I grew up, and even when you grew up a few years after me, it was a real challenge. So I think that's one of the big draws in Spain is that good, talented players don't have to drop out of the game at 18, 19. They can find different levels of men's football and keep growing. So I think that's pretty special and pretty unique. And the way the regional structure is and those sort of things, and the league structure is really strong. And I think that's a special thing. And then the way even Division to Honor set up and some of the other leagues for youth is really cool in terms of big clubs playing against those smaller and medium clubs. You guys have done some really good things that way. So that gets a player that's experienced. He's tactically experienced. He's been around good players, and that's a pretty cool thing. And that keeps us coming back for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one question for the. Always we said this is the best country, and most Madrid is the best city for format.
Yeah, to like create players, right? To develop.
Yeah.
But here it's too complicated for go a professional.
Yeah.
And I think you tell before the players from you go to USL or MLS also or MLS.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think is the one or best way for be professional?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting point, and I think the reality is it's extremely difficult to be a professional in any country in the world.
Of course.
And while we just talked about there's a good thing in Spain where there's an ability to play men's football at many levels.
Okay.
There is also that obstacle of how do you stay in really full-time environments with the best coaches, with the best strength and conditioning opportunities, with all the resources, if you're not at a super top club, right? Where do you create that environment? And I think that's really the difference. I don't think it's any easier to go professional in the United States than it is in Spain, but I think where these guys have made is they are good players, and then we at Missouri State and at other top universities, we can create that full time, where they're day in, day out getting the best training, the best physio, the best strength and conditioning, the best nutrition, that whole package. That's very difficult to replicate when you're playing, say, Tercera or something like that.
I think we cannot. I don't know in English is like that, but we cannot be more. I agree with you. It's like that.
Yeah. We talk a lot about we've had other podcasts.
The context.
Yeah, playing in a Division I university, the facilities are like first, second division here. Yeah. It's incredible. Then the level. I mean, I'm not speaking specifically of your team, right? But I've had a little experience in Division I, and I know other players, right? But obviously the league is structured differently, right? You're not playing as long, and that's something that we'll get into as well from you as a coaching side, but it's tough to really develop players. And that's a question that we had, right? And I guess we'll move into that, is you as a head coach in a university, right? How do you manage senior players leaving every year and freshman players coming in, that you're maybe do you plan for long term, or do you always plan this year try to win, this year try to win, this year try to win, or do you sometimes have a longer plan with I'm going to get a young core, and then by the senior year we're going to really try to compete? Or
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's an important challenge. We've been pretty successful in terms of trying to be consistent and be successful each year. And example, we've been in 6 straight NCAA tournaments, which we're only one of 7 schools in the country that have done that. But you still do that, at least I do that, with a plan to the future as well, right? So I'm looking at what can we do now to be successful, because that obviously helps recruiting, that helps retention, that does good things. But I'm also thinking about what players can we bring in to be a step ahead of the future, what players can we have lined up for future years, what does that look like? So we're both looking at short-term planning. It's just like goal setting. Your best kind of goal setting is short-term and long-term. Well, it's the same thing. The best planning is short-term and long-term.
Yeah. But do you ever feel that you try to plan for both so you don't get enough of either one? You know what I mean? It's like, we've 6 straight years, you said, right?
Yeah.
We've been, but we haven't been in the final, we haven't won, right? So it's like, I want that champ. You ever feel like you want that championship instead of, we're always consistently doing well, but now I want to make a push now for like a championship, or I'm gonna build it, and in 3 years I'm gonna make that push?
Yeah, I think it's a constant evolution of the better you do, you can get better and better players, and you can keep better and better players. So that's how I'm building to win a national championship.
Yeah.
It's not by saying, okay, let's go all in this year and sacrifice. It's by constantly elevating the program, whether that's fundraising, whether that's community service, whether that's type of student athletes we bring in, whether that's playing surface, whether that's gym facilities, locker room. What can we do to constantly upgrade? And there's certainly no question that when it comes down to it, we do everything possible. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm here in Spain looking for players for right now. We're still looking at 2025 and then also 2026. So we're looking at both opportunities. But there's no question we're going to do everything possible each year to put what we feel is the best possible team on the field. But I'll say one other thing about that that's important. If you forget about the future, you also create a bad locker room. And because if everyone on the team thinks it's only about right now, then what happens when you're not in the starting 11?
Yeah.
What happens? What are you working towards in addition to that? So it's also, to win right now is also creating a balance in terms of your planning, because it creates a better locker room and a better culture, because everybody feels a part of it.
It's very interesting. Obviously, an experienced coach would only be able to give you that kind of feedback, because on the last podcast with Carlos, he also spoke about that the important signings for them are locker room signings, guys that can manage the locker room well, and maybe me with less coaching experience, but more of a player, I don't think so much that way, although I understand it being more a veteran. But it's interesting that in the college environment, you have to control that as well.
Well, I think the interesting thing about that is managing the locker room. It can be a character, of course, but it's also that each player has a vision for themselves that is matching what the vision from the team is, right? And that allows the locker room to be strong, because if you're a player that's maybe not playing a lot, but you feel like this was part of your pathway and you're being helped to your goals, then you're going to be good in the locker room. And if you're a veteran that's feeling like you're getting the right support to stay in the team or continue to compete, well, then you're going to be good in the locker room. So it's creating that environment where people feel like they're being supported.
Do you analyze these things before to sign a player?
To sign, to keep, to retain, all those decisions.
And when you, for example, you have a freshman.
Yeah.
A freshman, you sign or offer to go with you, and in the first or 2 years, don't be como tú esperabas.
Yeah, maybe as if you planned for him to maybe play or whatnot.
You can leave the player, or you have to continue with him, or how works that in the university? Because here in Spain only have clubs. You get out of here.
Yeah. So I mean, the good thing is we're a first team, right?
Okay.
So if you just think about how you would handle a first team, and the good part is I've been at Missouri State a long time, and we're in a good stable situation, so I can have short and long term thinking, right? Sometimes in a club or even in a university, if the situation isn't good, you can be forced to be very short term as a coach. Excuse me. So I have that ability to do that, and we take advantage of it. And we try to really get to know the players we bring in. That's part of why I'm here in person, and get to see them, meet their families, get to know them as a human being as well as a footballer. And that helps us set expectations that are reasonable. And that doesn't mean we always get it right. Sometimes we get it wrong for all kinds of reasons. It could be injury, it could be adjustment, homesick, it could be anything. It doesn't always mean that the player's not good. So we try to manage that and work through those things as best we can, as long as the player still has a good attitude, work ethic. Because I've seen it over time, how much people will improve, and you have to allow that to take place. And so we really try to have a growth mindset with the player and support them. And there are times when it doesn't work out, and we'll have those meetings and say, hey, this isn't working, and here's what we're seeing, and get feedback from the player, and together make a decision for their future. But we try to do everything possible to achieve the goals we've set with the player.
So you said that a big thing for you is that the player kind of follows a little bit of the philosophy of what the school has, right? A long-term picture, your goals. So obviously you have those conversations with players. When you see them play, that's one thing, right? What they can do on the field. But then you made a comment that you like to get to know them, you like to get to know their families. Now you're going beyond, which I think maybe I would say that's probably something that's personal to you, because I don't know if everybody gives that kind of detail in recruiting. I know guys that their parents have never met the head coach or anything like that. Right. Maybe not, but I feel like that's a detail of yours that brings you a lot of success, I'm sure. But what is it that do you ask specific questions? Like, what is it that do you pick up on things, and what might be a specific detail that you pick up on the family or on the player?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the whole process is a process of learning, right? The process of evaluating the player, the process of them giving them constructive feedback, and starting to think, okay, I would like to work with this player. Would they like to work with us? What is it? Then that becomes the beginning of the coaching phase. Now we're giving feedback of, okay, here's how we see it. This is how you can play in our team. This is where we see your growth mindset. Often ask the player, what do they see from themselves? What position would they play? What sort of style would they like to play? Okay. And so we're kind of going through those conversations. Then we got to get admitted to school. Then we got to go through a visa process if they're international. And we've got to pick a housing opportunity and all these different things. So those are the questions in so many ways. That process is the questions, and that's why I stay involved in that process as a head coach. I try to really engage in that, because if I delegate that all to an assistant, I don't get those experiences. Now I do have them do parts of it, but I don't get those experiences. So it's all of it, and there's not a cookie cutter. It's just like coaching. Some players are going to respond to different challenges, so we try to get to know the player, and as we do that, we maybe challenge each player in a different way and find what's right for them.
Do you have your staff? You decide your staff?
Yeah.
And help to the player in everything in these areas, in the visa process, or is part of the university, or you help to them also with more personal things?
All of it, and we've got an unbelievable staff, and we're fortunate to have 3 assistant coaches. We're actually in the process of hiring one of those right now, which will likely be an associate head coach type, an experienced guy. Then we've got a athletic trainer, a physio. That one I don't pick alone. It's picked in coordination with the athletic department, but we certainly have a role in that. And same with the strength coach, very similarly, is hired in conjunction with the athletic department. But that physio works directly with our team. The strength and conditioning coach does men's and women's soccer, so they're very hands-on. We've got academic advisor that works specifically with our team. We've got medical staff that works with all the teams, but they're very close to us. Athletic administration, and then for international players, we've got an admissions and international office that is super engaged in the welfare of these students. So it's really, and Americans, the same thing. There's admissions for Americans, and again, advisors and academic advisors. So that support structure is broad and big, and kind of what you said about facilities, it would match the support structure for a La Liga type player, right? So we do all those things, but I do make sure the staff is very involved in that, not just say, okay, the admissions person and the academic advisor, you take all of that. No, we work with them. We'll have a group message on WhatsApp where we're all in there because we all want to engage.
Not everyone is like that. Not everyone is like that.
Yeah. But again, Missouri, I mean, a lot of times the sizes of universities can vary like crazy. You have Division I programs that are small universities. You have Division I programs that are huge, and they have a huge maybe football team which brings in a lot of money, or a basketball team which brings in a lot of money. So obviously Missouri State is a big university. It's not small. So in that aspect, a lot of those facilities and things like that are really great for players. Definitely attract good talent for sure.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that way, and it's growing. Missouri State's a growing university and a growing brand. We just announced that we're going to have doctoral programs, which doesn't directly relate, but it relates to the growth of the overall university,
right?
And opens up doors for our student athletes, and so we're super excited. And the school's making a move to Conference USA, so to another league, to continue to upgrade. And the soccer program, men's soccer program, we're going to the American Athletic Conference, kind of shortened to be the American, the AAC, and we're super pumped about that. And that was a targeted move from myself and the athletic department, our athletic directors, and so to your point, we're a large university and it's a successful one, but we're growing.
Yeah,
and it's exciting.
Getting a little bit more like into football specific. Football and soccer specific. How do you like your teams to play? And again, I guess I'm going to ask it in two different questions, because we didn't get too much into your background, right, as far as playing background and coaching background. But let's say you can imagine, obviously being an experienced coach, that you were coaching a club. Not a program where your players are changing every year. You are at a professional club, right? And also now in your university, do you have the same way that you would play, or do you adjust because in university the season is short? You play maybe every 3 days a lot of times in the season, right? Weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek. So obviously there's a lot that goes into being able to coach differently with a shorter season, that many games in such a tight man, whereas here you're in a club, right, and you play once a week on the weekend, unless you're top level and you're playing Champions League. What is it that you like ideally your team, and then does that change because in your university, and how do you play with your team?
Yeah, very, very, very deep question there, and a lot to it, and we try to coach with a lot of detail and a lot of thought process to what we do, and so there's a lot to answer there. I mean, I think I'll start with, we try to take advantage of the college setting.
Okay.
I'm involved with some stuff to work on potentially expanding the season, a 2-season model. That's actually one of the Zooms I have after this podcast. We're working on those things, but the current structure, we use the spring to start the season.
Gotcha.
So the spring of 2025 was the start of the fall season. We developed a team and used that for growth and gym time and technical development and player improvement. And so we feel like, in a sense, we have an academy set up that's second to none, just like you would have at an Atletico Madrid or Real Madrid with a 17-year-old or 16-year-old. But now we're getting to do that with 20-year-olds, allowing them to continue to grow. Right?
Yeah.
So we try to take full advantage of that. And then in the fall, we would probably see it as a similar setup to what you mentioned, a top La Liga team, a top Premier League team, a top MLS team that's also playing in cup competitions and those things, because their schedule's quite the same.
Yeah.
Friday, Wednesday, Sunday, and maybe now you don't play again until the following Saturday,
Right.
and again, and that's what our schedule looks like, right? So we're constantly, and so we, in the season, now you have to look at what development you're going to do with players, and maybe guys that aren't getting as many minutes to keep them engaged because you may need them at certain points to step in games, and then what guys you're looking at more maintenance and off the field development, taking care of their bodies, video analysis, these sort of things, and what can you do to keep them improving physically and mentally, but also managing that busy season. So I think we're doing, in some ways, what you would do as a development structure, a youth development structure at a really high level with young adults, and we're also doing exactly what you would be doing with a team that, you know, PSG and Inter Milan that are playing in the Champions League final here coming up. So we're doing both of those things. So that's that overall structure.
Yeah.
And then if you want to talk more tactics, like more of that side, we can talk a little bit about that. And I'm if I was in a club and I was to take a head coaching job or a manager job of a professional club, let's say in Europe, well, first of all, I'd hire someone that's very familiar with the place I'm at, because I think that familiarity builds value.
Yeah.
But then the next piece is, what are our resources? What is our positives? What things do we have to sell? And what players can we attract? And then we're going to adjust our football to the players that we can attract.
Okay.
And so we're going to get great players. They're going to be elite. They're going to be top guys. They're going to be top people. But we're not going to be set to like, okay, that has to be this specific style. Let's just take goalkeeper, most basic thing. Is he got to be one that's an unbelievable shot stopper, or is he going to be unbelievable with his feet? We want to get the best combination of all of it. But we just want to make sure, is he really good?
Yeah.
Is he really, and then we'll play to his strengths. And we'll do that at each position across the field. And that really informs how we're going to set up to play. So right now at Missouri State, we have good resources. We can attract amazingly top players. So you would say, okay, we play this really aggressive, high pressing, high possession, front foot, sort of modern football that you'll see in the Champions League final. But that's part of the resource of players that we have, right? And we're fortunate for that.
It's a little bit different here, because when I'm coach here, and when you have your club here, your team here, you don't really choose all players. Probably yes, in algún nivel, in some level, but normally you have 4, 5, 6, 10 in some case. You don't choose all players, and I adapt my idea for my team, and I think it's a little bit different. I listen to you, and I think it's different. You have more options, no, for choose a player, for choose our idea, our game. In the game, it's a little bit different here. Voy a muerte, pero no voy a decirlo así, como voy muy fuerte.
He's in one mindset. He's very, very, that way, like sticking to that no matter what.
I go with my idea and adapt to my players, but with my idea. And because you don't have a different things in your players. And when you have different things, like you told before, is make the difference for win the leagues or compete in the top position in the league. When you have different players for choosing, and here is a little bit difference in the how to make the squad.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly right, but in some ways, that is what I was saying, in the sense that with the university setting that I've been in throughout my career, different schools and different things, you're always looking at what can we get, what can we bring in, and also when you take over a program, how do you make the most of what you've got, right? And so that's where I believe. Well, there's the two philosophies, right? You get players to fit your system, or you fit the system to the team. And I'm kind of in the middle, where I'm gonna work with the players we have or that we're able to attract. But I'll have some certain philosophies that I want to get across. And like one of those for me is generally in coaching men, I've used a back four. That's kind of a standard. Would I ever change it? Sure, if there was the right situation. But it's been a standard philosophy We want to be a team that always defends well. That's something I've always believed in. That's going to help you win championships, and we've done really well doing that. But we're going to have a team that's got a teamwork ethic and a team cohesion. That's super important. But in terms of, are we going to pass short from a goal kick, or are we going to kick long from a goal kick? I don't know. Does the other team press us man to man all over the field, or do they give us a spare man that we can pass to? Right? Do I have a center back that can make that pass, or do I not? Right now, I do. I've got a center back that can pass the ball.
Okay, I have a question there. Only football.
Yeah.
I give you two options, and you decide. Not decide, but you say what option is more real for you. Okay, I tell in Spanish and El ataque condiciona la defensa, o la defensa condiciona el ataque.
In your team, does your attack condition how you defend, or do you plant with your team how you want to defend, and that conditions how you attack? I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I asked before for our views. No, don't say. For me, the defense conditions the attack.
Yeah.
So
in my idea.
So it's a great question. I'm not trying to avoid answer it, but I'll tell you what I do. I focus on areas of the field, and the area of the field conditions what we're going to do.
Okay.
And so the first area of the field that I focus on is, in defense, I focus on the front half. Okay. So we were talking just the other day with one of our mutual friends, and I was talking about our basic way to work on our pressing is the other team, the opponent team, the practice team takes a goal kick, and I allow the team that I want to work on pressing to have one free touch. So they get to control one. If they're clean on the ball, they're good. They're technically sound. They can control one ball, and then they're attacking. And then they have to react to the moment, whatever happens next. A goal kick, a throw in, a turnover with their pressing actions, right? So we're conditioning that area of the field that it begins with good pressing, but you have to have possession there to do it, right? You can't just kick a ball long and then start. I mean, I guess you could go and chase it, but it's going to get tiring. So in the front half, I begin with training the pressing.
Okay.
And then we work on the possession in the front half and the final and the scoring and those things, because I think staying there longer gives the other team less chances to score and gives us more chances. In the back half, I begin with the build up, with the possession. I do the exact opposite. I begin and focus on, and a lot of times I'll do it with the other team attacks us, and then we win the ball and we have to get out of the half. But our focus is on get out of the half, whether that's short or long passes. But I begin with the build up, with the possession ideas, and do the defending ideas last in the own half, because we want to spend as little time as possible in our own half, which means you must be able to be good at getting out of your half, which takes a long time to learn. And I think I can teach a team to defend in their own half and be organized and tight and small and defend crosses and open up the hips quicker than I can teach them to possess the ball well out of their half. So I guess it's a little bit half and half. In my own half, I guess the defending sets up the attacking, and in the other half, the attacking sets up the defending.
Interesting way of splitting it up.
I have other point. Sorry, I speak about like a coach.
Yeah, thinking like a coach. That's good. I love football, so we'll be fine.
I have two or three big concepts. Is hard to combine so the players or to the fans, but it's real for me. Se me ha olvidado es que estaba pensando en decirlo en inglés y no, pero bueno, no pasa nada. I have two. One have now. The 80% of goals is really 78% of goals score for less to 4 no sé si lo estoy diciendo bien.
Yeah, about 80%. There was a study that was done here that 80% of goals that were scored came from 4 passes or less, right? So in our academy and situation, a lot of players, they come from different countries, and I think something that I learned really well in Europe, and especially here in Madrid, because it's so competitive and 3 points every weekend is so important, that you know, a lot of people think, oh, if you don't possess the ball, you're not playing good football. And I don't believe that's true. I believe that, like, you know, if a team is defending well and you're controlling the game because you're allowing the other team to have the ball, but that's what you want the other team to do. You want them to have the ball, but where they're not dangerous. And the more that they keep the ball, at some point they'll make a mistake depending on how you press, and that's when you counter. And so
because the point is the different. One thing is control the game, and other point is control the match.
Mm-hmm.
You can control the game, but you lose.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big statistic here that comes from a former coach that we both know well, that 80% of the goals that came in all divisions, maybe close to 80%, came from under 4 passes, right? So how does, like, do you, that comment, that statistic, do you agree, not necessarily agree with that statistic, but what do you feel about that? Like, are your team, do you consider yourself more of a possession oriented, or do you believe that, for example, he's a coach that he believes that the more that you have the ball, the more at risk you are for the other team scoring?
Right.
Which is, you know, different. I didn't grow up like that and play like that. The more that I can control the ball, the less the other team has the opportunity for scoring because they don't have the ball.
Yeah. So I guess there's to that point about whether being in possession is a risk.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being possession in the front half is a risk. Being in possession in your own half is a risk.
Mm-hmm.
We try to mitigate that risk by the way, you know, I don't use that term, but in the front half, rest defense or that sort of concept, I call that something else. I call that the seal, because I want it to be an active, we're sealing them in, we're looking to lock them in. I want it to be an active thing, not a resting thing. But we try to mitigate that risk, and we talk about that, and we train that for the opponent, how we feel like they would best get a counterattack from the front half. And then in their own half, it goes back to what we talked about before. What are our choices in possession? Where's our +1? Where's our extra player? Or where do we have good numbers? And what choices do we make in our own half? And again, we train that and prepare that, and that's how you mitigate that risk in our own half. Because of the players I've had, we probably go the other route. We try to say more possession gives us more match control, to your point about controlling the match, and more opportunities to score, and more doesn't mean we're going to score on 25 passes. We might score on a repress situation where we counter press and get it back, or we might score on a situation on a goal kick where we do go long because they go man to man and looking to stop us passing the ball, and they're frustrated with us having the ball, so we take advantage of it with a quick action. But the players we've had, we've been able to do that. But you know, that's always an evolving thing, game to game, and we try to be tactically flexible to win both ways, where we could have to win sometimes without the ball, and we still talk about, even with the ball, being confident and comfortable to control a situation emotionally and tactically when we don't have it, and know that that's something that you can win. And I'll go a step further, because it's just a special thing for me. One of my mentors very early on, I was fortunate to coach in Major League Soccer, and one of the coaches above me, he's a Belgian guy and played for the Belgian national team, and a really successful career, and he's a goalkeeper. And I guess that I wasn't a goalkeeper, but he was, and it brings a perspective. He had 2 interesting things he talked to me about early on in my coaching career. And one was you don't choose to play attacking soccer or attacking football. You play attacking football by being the better team. And so I put a lot of emphasis on trying to be the better team. Better fit, better technical, better strong, better decisions, better tactically. That's what we focus on. And then the other one is tactics is a really fancy word for defend. And we just try to commit to defend. Right? Okay. And so if you do those 2 things well, we've been fortunate, we've won a lot of games. I think you're going to win a lot of matches.
Right. The other point, for the same conversation, point, I ask normally for my players, I can now with Risa, if he want, tell me one basketball player, aggressive basketball player. You can say LeBron or not, I don't know more a lot, but or you can say tell me one tennis player.
Yeah, tennis player.
Tennis player aggressive. Alcaraz now, I don't know. So when you speak about any sport for aggressive players, you put the focus in the attack part. When you ask in football and soccer aggressive players, you think in Pepe, in Sergio Ramos. You think in the defensive, and I'm not agree with that. For me, the aggressive player is Vinicius. Neymar is the most aggressive player. It's not necessarily aggressive like physically. You're not aggressive with the ball, run with the ball, run to looking forward with the ball, play all balls or most part of the ball to looking forward, don't play back. How do you think about that?
I think it's an interesting concept, and I think we aggression in football sometimes is that are you winning your tackles and winning your 50?
This is aggressive player, no?
I like the idea, and it's something we certainly coach. Is we want players that want to take the ball and want to be positive and want the ball at their feet and want to big forward passes or forward runs, and face forward break lines. I think it's super important, and I do think that is the most aggressive, hardest challenge. And one thing that I observed and noticed two differences I've noticed in my career, that America we're getting better and better and better at these two things. But I was watching the Brazilian under-17 national team about 24 years ago against the United States in Florida. And it was a friendly in preparation for an under-17 World Cup, and the game was even. The match was extremely even. Chances, possession, very, very equal. But the Americans lost because the chances fell to non-traditional goal scorers. A fullback, I don't remember, it was a long time ago, but a center back in a high position. And we lost. The Americans lost 2-0 because that's good teams cancel out each other's attackers a lot of times. So those aggressive players for Brazil played other positions, right? In terms of your definition of aggressive. And that made me realize if I'm going to win big games, which I've been fortunate to win a national championship and fortunate to win some big games, we got to have players that can make aggressive actions, those positive actions at many positions, because teams will always look to stop your star striker. So that was one observation. The other observation that I've had related to your point is many years ago, watching the U.S. national team, full national team, and the Italian national team, that the Italians were known for defending at the time. Well, but what I noticed was their defending was okay and was positive because their defenders, in your concept, were aggressive. When they won the ball, they had a good decision making whether, I'm going to clear this ball or I can take this one and I can make a pass. And then we can find 2 or 3 passes and find our striker. And so then I started thinking about that, training our defenders to be good when they have to clear a ball, but also be good to recognize, I have time here. I can make 2-3 passes because that allows our defending to be some value.
And you attack against less players with more space.
Yes.
I love it.
He's a big fan of, we talk a lot about, because, obviously in our academy, a lot of people here, they'll call it tecnificaciones, which is like technical skills and training, but we don't really work a lot. We work maybe 15-20 minutes in our session at the beginning with different things like that, but we always work on a concept. Always. Again, our academy, all of these players play in different teams. So what we do is we work on different concepts so that, one season they're playing for one coach who wants to play this way, but another season they're playing for another coach and they want to play this way. So they can adapt to different formations, different styles of play, whether they like to sit in a low block, right? And so we talk to a lot of guys because everybody's always like, but our team doesn't keep the ball, they just cleared out. We're always kind of defending, right? But, for example, his team, and I've learned to appreciate this style of game, even though me as a player, when I played, I didn't necessarily like it. But again, you have to adapt to what type of team you have, right? If you don't have center backs that can filter balls or break lines out of the back, well, then you need to look to play longer and you need to look to defend a little bit more, because if you're going to try to keep possession, you got to have quality center backs for me and a quality goalkeeper with his feet, right? For me, the back four had to be the most technical players on the field. I don't mean dribbling, I mean technical, right? Clean, because the first pass out of the back, you can't give away. But for example, his teams are very low block. When they're low block, that means the other team, you're attracting them this way. Now where's the space? In and behind them. but if you take too long to attack that space will close down.
Right.
So it's really defending properly, and now all of a sudden when you win the ball, you activate not just clearing it out, but it's maybe 1-2 passes. They're aggressive passes, that means forward into open spaces, and guys without the balls, in Spanish I like to call it, he likes to say it a lot, amanecer. It means to like threaten the other team by the forward is making a diagonal run into the corner, or the winger is starting to go already into that space, because the space on the field is there, and you need to attack it without the ball.
Yeah.
Right. So,
it's extremely hard though, because you find that hard to train in the sense of realistic training, because the thing that happens in the match, of course, is you're defending for a moment, you're now fatigued mentally and physically, and do you have the confidence and the belief to do all of those things? Does the forward excuse me, just get over a cold, does the forward or the winger have the confidence to make that forward run because they believe the ball will eventually get there? Because if it doesn't, then they're going to have to run back to defend again. Does the defender have the confidence to bring that ball in or connect with his teammate and make those passes? So it's easy to do that in training, but in a situation when you're a match and you're fatigued and you're tired and you've been under it, and it's like now that becomes much harder. And so that's where experience and maturity and constantly training those environments is really important. And as I mentioned, that is exactly the two things we train. We train the areas of the field. In our own half, we train how do we get out of those situations. That's the first most important thing. More important than the defending in our own half is how do we get out of defending? How do we get from defending to the front half? Whatever that's going to take. And then in the front half, it's the exact opposite. We train how, in the loss of possession, how we're going to stay there, because it's much easier to keep possession and keep people away from our goal if we can stay in the front half. It puts more pressure under their team, and eventually, hopefully, they'll break. So that's why we train exactly that way at first, and then we go to the other piece. Of course, we work on the opposite of the defend part or the attacking part, but that's why we prioritize that order.
Yeah, we did want to touch a little bit about when you recruit players, what is it like? Let's say for a defender, something that you look for that fits the college game, right? Midfielder, attacker, and also the difference between, because you go to a lot of different countries to recruit, right? So what are the different things that you tend to see from a Spanish player, from a Brazilian player, from I don't know what other countries you've been to? You can explain or tell us.
I think what I see is what I said earlier. I see different countries have different environments for growth, and I find that there's different places to find players in those countries, and maybe based on the population size and the development structure, different levels I have to consider, right? What level do I need to get to in Spain to get a player that can potentially... There's always exceptions. There's always guys at lower level that could be elite, and top guys at top level that could be weaker, but generally I wouldn't say that I really notice that from a certain country I see this style or that style that much. I think football's pretty global now. I think people see a lot of the same things, and so you have the cultural difference in terms of like when people like to eat, or what types of food they have, or what sort of the communication style is. But in terms of like types of football, it's becoming reasonably uniform across the world, right? The national team of the United States is not the same as it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it was a lot of work our tail off and defend hard and hope to survive the moments with some quality players that maybe could steal a goal. Now we're playing much different. We have a manager that comes from a different background. So I don't really see those differences in huge ways. What do I look for? Again, I'm not a stickler that it's got to be a certain style, but I look for what value can you add to our team or organization. What are your positives, and is that positive something we need more of? And it could be anything. It could be anything that helps football, right? All the things you can imagine: speed, strength, leadership, technical ability, finishing. It could just be any of these things. Work ethic, all those things. And then what are your weak points? What are the things that we can improve, help you with? Where are the growth opportunities? And do we feel like we can bring those growth opportunities, those things that I can maybe help you work with, and our culture and our team can help you with? Can we bring those things forward to make you successful, make you better? And can we really tap into your strength? And is that going to add value to our team? And so those are the questions I ask, and I don't have a specific mold for that. It's just that question, and then we go from there. And I don't think there's a big difference between university football and football at a first division, first team level anywhere else in the world. I think at least on our team, we play a very style and do things that are familiar for elite players wherever they're from.
We don't have much. We don't have more time.
Yeah.
But the last question I think is interesting here in Spain because we don't have something similar, and I think it's only in USA. And how works the draft?
Oh, yeah, really interesting thing, and decent bit of familiarity with it from all my years coaching college soccer. And then again, I mentioned I worked in Major League Soccer as an assistant coach for a time, about 2.5 years, 3 years, a while back. So I've been familiar with it from both sides. But basically, once a year, there is a selection of players that are available in the American game.
Okay.
And so they have to be in the American game through the college, the university system. And there is some exceptions that are built in, like homegrown. So if a player was developed by Sporting Kansas City, they can declare them a homegrown player. And even if they go to university somewhere else, they can then bring them back without using the draft. But the draft is for university players in the American system and them alone. And all a draft really means is you have a tryout.
Okay.
It's not a contract. It's not a guarantee. It's a tryout.
Yeah, you get invited into preseason.
You're invited into preseason.
Yeah. And who select the players for the American games? Or is a rank? Is a record? Is ranking?
So the order of selection for the teams is sort of inverse order of finish in the league.
Okay.
Although those picks can be traded and passed around. Okay. And then, of course, for the club, the selection is made by whoever the club designates to do that.
Okay.
Some sort of technical advisor or general manager or director of football or something like that. But usually there's a team of people, coaches and assistant coaches and scouts and owners, and who influences that will be different for every club. Mm-hmm. And so it's an interesting system. It's an American system, as you guys know. I think MLS is thinking through the draft and whether it's the right thing moving forward. And there's been talk of changing it, getting rid of it, shortening, all these things over the years. But it continues to exist for now, and we'll see what the future holds.
Mm-hmm. And for finishing, how do you wait? What do you wait? For the future. You continue in Missouri State. You have plans for other things, maybe in Europe, maybe in Spain.
If anybody in Spain wants to talk, we'll always but no, I've got a multi-year contract at Missouri State, and I've been very, very happy there. And the school is incredibly invested in athletics and in men's soccer, and so I'm certainly invested back in that. And we have a home there, and so many positive things. And one of the cool things is the history of working with the same organization and all the alumni and former players that are connected, and it's pretty cool. And we're able to bring some of our former players back to our coaching staff and those things. So we want to enjoy. I want to enjoy my football. I want to enjoy my day to day. I want to work with people that I love and care about, and as long as we can keep doing it at Missouri State, we'll keep going after it.
I do have another one last important question because I get it a lot.
And we're okay. I mean, I've got 6 minutes if we need to. So.
I get it a lot asked. Just earlier this morning, I had a phone call from a player in India who's going to study in Hofstra University, and he's played in whatever division over there, and he was asking me, how do I get into the team, because he wants to play there. He got there from the academic side. He's doing a master's program there, right? And with obviously I've been out of the US for a while, and after COVID a lot of things changed, because there used to be showcases and things like that, tournaments that college coaches would go to. Now I hear it's pretty difficult for the American player in high school, right? And now there's other leagues that are made. But how would you suggest someone to get your attention as a head coach of a very good university that maybe you don't know of because they didn't score 30 goals in Tercera División in Spain, or have a contact of yours, right? So they talk to you directly because one of your friends knows him or something. How do you suggest for a player from any country in the US or abroad to get in touch with you or someone in your staff that would give them a real opportunity? Yeah, no, it's a really important challenge, and I'm involved with youth soccer, and I've given these sort of talks to people all over the world, at professional clubs throughout Europe, at professional clubs in America, academies in America.
the biggest thing is look at it like you're applying for a job. And what would you do to try to get any job in life? Because it is a job, right? So at this point, you want to be a part of an organization, whether you're on scholarship or you're certainly being supported and you're part of a team. So you're applying for this opportunity for this job. So what does that look like? That looked like really intentional communication. And
sorry, but you're saying applying for the job. So like literally, like where? Where do I go? Who do I send? Do I send an email? Is there something online? What do I do?
Well, that's it. And so, I think getting to the organization with an appropriate email is probably the best thing, because that's what I feel like I would do. I mean, you could do LinkedIn and some of these other things. So I would certainly do that. I'd create a YouTube page and create a portfolio online, create a presence online that's a positive presence, right? It better be a positive one, because there's no point in doing it.
Right.
But you want to create that profile that you're easily accessible, right? And who you are and what you're trying to accomplish is available openly on the internet and all those things in a positive sense. But then I would do it through email, and I would do it through an email.
An email, like they can look for your email specifically, or it'd be an athletic director, or it'd be the assistant coach is better?
Mine, and I would copy assistant coaches.
Yeah.
And mine is public on the website. Some coaches choose not to.
Right.
But mine is.
Yeah.
So it'd be an email to me and the assistant coaches.
And you guys take that pretty seriously? Like, would you say that, obviously you guys have things in mind, your contacts, where you go and you recruit, but do you genuinely look at all of the emails? Obviously, and I tell players that have to make their video and their resume and things like that, you need to attract a coach's or an agent's attention in the first 5 seconds. I look at something and I don't want to see I'm a good player because I do this. No. I want to see that your team, the last year that you played, stands out right away. Like, my eyes need to go to that. Otherwise, I get 1,000 and like, okay, next. So like, do you take those emails seriously? Is it...
I'll look quickly at my phone because I have 7,728 emails.
There you go.
That I need to read. So that's a big number.
Yeah.
But we triage those as best we can. We try to get through them. What I need to reply to for work. What are recruits? What I need to forward to assistant coaches. What are we doing here? And you're spot on. It's got to be detailed. It's got to be purposeful. It's got to be to the point. It's got to be professional. It's got to be professionally done. It's got to come from the athlete, right? Unless it's from a contact that I know, as you mentioned, then I'm going to say, okay, but otherwise, it's got to, not from their parents, not from their agent, not from their cousin, not from the athlete, and it's got to be intentional, well thought out, well prepared, and give me a snapshot into who they are very quickly. And I still may forward it on to the assistant coach and say, hey, can you follow on this? Or I still may not reply at all because I can't reply to every single one of them. But we've recruited players that way. Kyle Hebert is a Canadian national team player at this point. For the first Canadian full national team, he's been 4 years in Major League Soccer, is a frequent starter for St. Louis City. He's a fantastic player, and it all started with an email, and he was coming to town to play PDL at the time, or USL 2, and it made me excited to go watch him in my town, coming down from Canada, and see him playing for that team.
So now, I was talking to a player in India. He wants to go, right? You're not going to travel out to India for a player that doesn't call that much to your attention. So from there, let's say that you look at the email, you respond, right? What like, is it, would you suggest that he would go to the university literally to show up there and have a meeting with you? Or are there walk-on trials that you guys would do and that's where you would suggest him to go? Or, once let's say you do get in contact with him, then what would be the best thing for him to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's... Hopefully be open to what the feedback is, and if I said, look, I don't have an opportunity or I don't have the spot for you because we have limited roster spots, then to accept that. But if there's a mutual interest, then it would just be working with that player to find what works. Are they coming to Missouri State already? Could we do a tryout in the spring? What does that look like? Could we get more information? Can we get in touch with a coach? Can we get more video? We just have to figure out what we tailor it to that player and that opportunity, and do the best we
You would
can.
never sign somebody just seeing a video, right? If it didn't really convince you, and like they weren't on, like, I don't know, they wouldn't have a transfer market yet, but like just from seeing a video isn't very convincing, so you'd want to see him in the spring, and like if he were to go over, he would have to get his own stay and basically almost like trial with the team in training sessions, right? Or maybe some friendly matches.
In that scenario you're talking about, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
I'd have to know all the specifics to know for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a very real thing.
Okay.
And we've had guys be successful in doing that too. But there are exceptions. If I know the country really well and and time is limited, and I trust the video and the resource and the references. You know, it is possible to do it that way too, right? The other big thing is knowing what you're asking. Are you asking to be on the roster? Are you asking for a scholarship? What are you asking for? And really putting that in your email. I've applied to your school. I've been admitted. I want to study engineering, which we don't have at Missouri State, but we do at such and such school. And I'm not looking for a scholarship, and I have a budget of X. Versus what am I putting in there?
Right.
That's important too, because that changes the perspective too.
Right. Yeah, to know that going in so that it takes up less time. Like, if you know that already, you can give them a better answer right away. And you don't have time to be going back and forth on, you're not asking him. He needs to give you all the information, and you give him an answer if you're interested, basically.
Unless the information he gives me is I was captain of Real Madrid under-18 team, and right now I'm playing for Real Madrid's first team, but yet I've taken an amateur contract because I want to come to Missouri State.
Yeah.
And then he sends me some video of him playing for the first team of Real Madrid in the Champions League, playing for expense money.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a very different conversation.
And that goes to what we have all our players here. If they were so good, they wouldn't be coming to us looking for to get better training and help them to send them to a team, right? So it's always like a little circle, right? They want to be at the best and they want everything, but they haven't done anything to get that, right? So they got to prove that. But, you know, that's always tough to understand a little bit from the player side. Obviously, coaches understand that better, but no, very, very interesting stuff to hear.
I'm sorry, but we don't have more time.
Yes.
We really appreciate give us your time. A really interesting conversation. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope see you again the next year.
Yeah, well, I'll be in Spain again for sure, and it's great to meet you guys and enjoyed it, and happy to come back again another time.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.